We're going to start off with the very first show with a subject I think that's quite taboo. We should never really talk about this, but it's sex, and then how do we heal differently? And I really want to welcome an absolutely amazing person, a wonderful friend of mine, a person I've never actually met in the flesh, so to speak, which is very poignant when it comes to sex. But it's Shiri Arzi. She's the head of the Medical Coaching Institute, and she lives in Israel, but she travels around the world teaching, coaching, working with top medical professionals and other practitioners in the world. And welcome, Shiri. How are you today? How's today been already?
I am doing well today, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, today what we are going to be talking about is sex, obviously. And why sex? Why are we talking about sex? And we're opening up the whole Heal Differently series with sex.
Because sex is one of the first things that people give up when they're dealing with an illness or with a chronic situation. It almost seems unreasonable to get busy with sex and sexuality and touchy and when you're dealing with a crisis, a medical crisis, or when you have this illness. So that's usually the first thing that we tend to give up on.
Absolutely, and I've been ill myself, and you don't really feel up to it. I mean, it happens to men and women, but more importantly, women, and especially women I've come across who've had a full mastectomy or something. They just do not feel sexy anymore.
And here's the thing. We have to expand the dialogue about sex and make it also about sexuality and about passion, because it's not about the man-woman having sex in bed. It's a bigger dialogue than that. We have to look at it as a way of being. It's the relationship that we have with our body. It's a relationship that we have with each other. It's a relationship we have with the world. And we start with sex.
And, on that sort of note, why are we talking about sex from your point of view? How did you get into all of this? That's what I think people would love to know that. How did you start with all of this? Why, medical coaching? How did this all come about?
Well, about 18 years ago, 1999, which just goes to show you how old I am. I'm 44 today. But in 1999, I was diagnosed with a life-threatening illness and given 2 years to live. I was a newlywed, and this really impacted my entire life. And as I was dealing with my illness, I was really asking myself, I didn't care about why me, but I did ask myself, why now, why like this, and what can I do? Being a rebellious person by nature, the fact that I was given 2 years to live was like, okay, I was taking that with a pinch of salt, but I really wanted to be the one to decide, how am I going to live, whether it's 2 years, 20 years, 200 years, okay? I am the boss of my body. I am the boss of my experience with my illness. And I think that was the birth of medical coaching for me.
It's pretty amazing. I know your story, obviously. We've spent a lot of time dealing with those things, and you're really well now. I know that. And the point, though, let's really come back to this whole sexuality, this whole sex thing, and bring it back to that, and really talk about the body. And you mentioned that just then, with regards to the body, you were given 2 years to live, and you wanted to basically get in touch with who you were, I think, through that as well. So expand a little bit more on that.
One of the fundamental experiences of being diagnosed has to do with losing trust in the body. The body betrays. Even when we can understand how it happens, even though we understand that the body isn't doing this to us on purpose, emotionally, we've been betrayed, and we've been betrayed on such an intimate level. We've been betrayed by that vessel that we have learned to trust unconditionally. Now think about it. If that is not safe, if I am not safe in my own body, and if I'm living with pain, not only am I not safe, but my body is hurting me. It's almost abusing me. If that intimate space is not safe, how can I trust any other kind of intimacy with another person, with a healthcare practitioner, with the world. How can I build that relationship? Every other relationship in our lives is founded on that basic relationship we have with ourselves. That is the most fundamental thing. If there isn't any trust there, if there isn't any self-love, compassion, acceptance, and pleasure, then we have a difficult time creating that on other levels in our lives.
And I think it does boil down to that pleasure, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
And pleasure is pleasure is pleasure. You can have that, making out with someone. You can have that having sex. You can have that, through food, any other kind of touch, music, nature. It's the same pleasure. It's the same passion. And you know what? The same way you love to eat, you make love to what you eat. The same way that you make love to other people, the same way that you make love to yourself, because self-love is making love to yourself.
Okay, then let's get into a little bit more of the dynamics of this. I know you did a whole coaching session to a large group of people, and you do this as part of your training in certain areas. And how do people basically make love to themselves, or have that love and that connection, get that love and that connection back when they're healing differently? I really love you to share that, and we're going to actually get a little bit risque here, and I told Shiri to basically bring out the toys if need be, and just tell people, let's be open, let's be honest, let's explore this whole area and look at this whole thing in a different way.
First of all, when I have these workshops, it's amazing how people don't really share, because we have to understand that there's a lot of shame here, okay? But the funny thing is that I will, bring up information and talk, and then after the workshop, people go like, Shiri, can I talk to you? I have a question. And that's when the real, interesting things come up. But here's the thing. We have to start by touching ourselves. We need to learn what gives us pleasure, okay? So start by a simple thing. Feel your skin. It's very, very simple. What kind of touch gives you pleasure? Is it this? And hey, some people like it rough. Cool, whatever. Is it this? Is it this? What is it? You can use your fingers. You can use hand cream or body lotion. You can use feathers. You can use water. Stand in the shower. Allow the water to touch your body. Play with the temperature of it. Notice how it feels. Practice feeling pleasure from the way the water touches your body. This is where the dialogue begins, long before we allow someone else to touch us. Now, here's the thing. Once we know how we like to be touched, then we can tell another person. Because if we're living with pain, or if we're living with scars, people who want to touch us and love us are pretty afraid. We need to help them get familiar with our body. Remember, we needed a process to get familiar with our body first. So this is where it begins.
Okay, so what else can we do? Because that's a big question. Is someone's had, let's just talk about this. Let's be completely open about it. A full mastectomy, okay? So they've lost the breast. And I know I've met women, they go, well, I haven't had sex since I had my breast off, and I just don't feel sexy. How does a person do that then? How do they, one, connect with themselves, and two, connect with another partner? And because we're also talking about healing the stressful events behind disease, because that's very much a part of healing differently.
The opportunity to reconnect to ourselves and reconnect to others is part of the healing, because actually we carry these things throughout our lives, but an illness is such an invitation to heal that place. And that is exactly the difference between fixing an organ and healing the body, because healing the body is the process of becoming whole again. And we do that on many, many levels. Before I answer your question, we need to understand that this works differently in men than it does in women. And it has nothing to do with whether you are heterosexual or homosexual. Okay, there's something about the feminine identity and there's something about the masculine identity, and they're different. They have a different energy. So let's start with the feminine. Let's start with women that had that are breast cancer survivors. Okay, first of all, you need to start feeling sexy and sexual. Okay, I'm going to replace the word sexy with the word sexual, because sexy is kind of like lingerie and stuff like that. That's one way of being sexual. Okay, there are many other ways of being sexual. So get butt naked, stand in front of the mirror, and start noticing the things that you love about yourself. Start with your hair all the way down to your toes. Okay, if you come across something that you don't like, find what you do like about it. What is beautiful about it? In what way is your scar beautiful? Now, how do you want to make it even more beautiful and more attractive? And some women will go through plastic surgery, and some women won't. Some women will tattoo over the scar. But you need to be in dialogue with your feminine self. You need to be looking at the mirror and go like, oh God, I would do me. It begins there, because if you don't feel like you're attractive enough, this is what you're going to project outside. Okay? You're going to step up into a situation with another man or another woman, and you're going to say, oh my God, I have no idea what that person sees in me, because when I look in the mirror and I'm naked, I don't see anything attractive. And they're going to pick up on that.
And I think that that's an important point, is that we can also assist, the practitioners can also assist by getting rid of those underlying belief systems, the energy that's behind the stress that's causing a person not to be in love with themselves, not to feel that they are sexual as a person.
We as practitioners can do so many things to help our clients here. First of all, on a belief system level, what do you believe? What do you believe about sexuality? What do you believe is beautiful? What do you believe is sexual? Also, looking at the information, the messages we're getting from the outside. Okay, if you look to the way as we in the Western society look at the perfect sexy body. Okay, and I say perfect sexy because when we look at the scarred body, the imperfect body, we don't look at it as sexy. So there's a lot of deconstructing we need to do there, and this is where a practitioner's work is absolutely so important.
Let's just recap on what Shiri is saying. How do we go about healing the sexual you, especially during a disease? Well, what stops us from being sexual is pain, obviously, and lack of energy, embarrassment about our bodies, for example, a woman with a mastectomy that I spoke about, and not feeling sexual. That often comes from just our libido just disappearing through drugs and other things that we're having to take. How we perceive how we look when we can't even, say, for example, get up out of bed because we're in so much pain or have no energy, and also beliefs about sex and the link with disease. So common hindering beliefs, though, are also a major factor here with these particular problems. For example, religion plays a massive part in the whole of this. Whether it's right or wrong to even have an orgasm in certain situations is very fundamental from a religious point of view. And how do you go about doing that? And also, is it right to have a pleasurable time on your own? Now, also, the beliefs can come from parents and past generations. I know grandmothers and grandfathers have had an influence on their grandchildren, and parents saying, you shouldn't do that, do not touch this, don't go anywhere near that, don't do this. Friends as well, they might have an effect on us. Previous relationships, the country we live in. For example, I know in Germany and in other countries, nudity is quite normal. But in, say, for example, North America, everybody wants to cover themselves up. So the culture that we live in has a massive effect. So when it comes down to sexuality disease, Disease can change one's sexuality as well. In other words, what we might have thought was completely normal suddenly changes us. It can increase or decrease our libido. Other things that can also change these things are brain operation, cancer drugs, antidepressants, mood stabilizers, antipsychotics, and obviously, as we age, the overall aging process. So how do we heal these things? We acknowledge that something has changed or needs to be addressed. We heal the stressful event behind these issues, especially beliefs, and heal any traumas that occurred during the disease. For example, those operations or during the diagnosis. And we heal any past traumas limiting one's sexuality. And we actually do that within advanced clean energetics. Let's go back to Shiri and listen to her expand on that even more.
Then we need to go back and see, are there any stressful events that created a dysfunction, an inner dysfunction there? Things that created shame and guilt. What are the messages that I'm carrying that are not my own? I picked them up from my parents or from my neighborhood or from my religion or from my culture that trigger shame in me, that say that I should be like this and not like that. And then finding the pathway, the authentic pathway to my sexuality. How can I be sexual? And part of the pathway goes through pornography, through the ability to look at porn and realize a porn movie is not a documentary. It's more a fantasy. People don't fuck that way in real life. Okay? You don't take this as a recommendation, but you can use it to get yourself turned on, to understand what turns you on, to understand what turns you off, and then take what you like or, discard it completely. But the idea is use it to help you find your own way to your own sexuality. And we really need to find that authentic way. And then we can start looking at the technical stuff. Okay, so now that I'm willing and able and I'm ready and I'm feeling good and I have this authentic sexuality about myself and I'm, open heart, open soul, open anything else you want to open up, I'm ready to engage. Then you need to go into the technical stuff. You want to use toys? Yay. You want to use fabric? Yay. You want to use pillows and accessories, and we can go into all of that. But that's the technical part. And you know what? You don't need me. I can come with a lot of tips and a lot of experience. But actually, what I'm going to do with you is help you connect to your own creativity and think outside the box and get really, really good kinky in that aspect and just allow yourself to be extremely creative.
Is there anything else, any other questions that people might have, especially around this whole area, about healing differently, looking at sex? Because what you've actually explained also could be relevant to anybody, whether they're, regardless of disease, getting back in touch with themselves, or whether they're male or female. A man's not going to actually stand in front of a mirror, but he should, and just say, hey, maybe, whatever. And also what you said about pornography. I know that men, they get off, for example, you talked about the difference between men and women. Men get off on the visual look. Women get off on the actual kinesthetic feeling of almost stepping inside maybe another person's body or their own body to feel sexual. Is there anything else you can just conclude with?
Sexual energy is life energy, and we need every little bit of that kind of energy to heal. Because when our body is dealing with a medical issue, we need as much energy as we can get. And if we can get that through passion and pleasure and fun and connection, then it's not a luxury. It's a need, and it's part of our healing prescription. And that's where I'm going with this. Fantastic,
Shiri. Now, just to conclude, Shiri is the head of the Medical Coaching Institute. She's an absolutely amazing coach and practitioner, and she uses all the tools she's mentioned and a load more. If you want to know more about Shiri's work, you can do very simply go to richardflook.com, hit on Heal You if you want to actually heal yourself and get in touch with Shiri. We will put you in touch with her and we'll tell you all about what she does. And she just doesn't deal with sex. Obviously, it's all the coaching stuff. If you're going through a disease or anything else, then hit the Heal You. If you want to learn how to become a medical coach, hit Heal Others. You'll be put in touch with me. You book an appointment with me, and then we'll work out how we can make that happen for you. Very, very simple. And until that, really, thank you very, very much, Shiri. It's been just always a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for sharing this incredible advice with everybody out there.
Yeah, thank you. And let's go and get sexual. Enjoy life.
Okay, and it is about enjoying life. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye for now.